Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Chapter 3 practice. Chapter 3 is all about data visualizations, and we're going to show you on this video some of the charts and graphs you can create in Excel. The first thing we're actually going to do is a pivot table, because you have a couple problems on your problem set about pivot tables, so we're going to show you how that works. Pivot tables are where we can make a cross tabulation of different data that is easy to change what it is we're seeing. Meaning I can perform calculations on an average of a certain variable, or I can see how this compares to this. I can easily filter out some of the categories or some of the subcategories to really drill down to the information it is that I'm wanting to get across to my audience. So you can see here on page 88, I believe in your textbook, again, I believe that, I'm using the ebook, but I believe the bottom number here correlates to the page if you've got a physical textbook. So the chapter 3 practice file will have this restaurant file already in it on the first tab. So we're just going to basically follow along with the steps. So you can follow along with the steps from your book or from this video to practice inserting a pivot table. But the idea is you select the entire table, and then you select the location where you want to insert the pivot table, right? So how that looks is I'm going to select this entire table. So from the titles all the way down to the bottom, I'm going to select all of it. Now I can scroll all the way down to the bottom, which takes me a while. And that's fine. It just takes you a while to do that. Or what I can do is I can highlight across all of the columns I want, hold Control, hold Shift, and then push down. And that's going to go to the end of that table, and it'll highlight all those for me. Either way, you can do that. Again, if I say Control, but you're on a MacBook, that's the Command button on Mac, Control on Windows operating system. So Control Shift down after you've highlighted the top row, and then it'll select all the data in the table for you. All right, so we want to go to the Insert tab. You start off on the Home tab. We go to the Insert tab, and then we're going to select Pivot Table. And that's going to be the range of the table, but as to where you put the pivot table, it's going to default to putting on a new worksheet. We do not want that. I have it set up a specific cell to click on in your problem set. So if you look at your problem set, it says insert in cell D15. So what you do is you choose existing worksheet, and for the location, you click on the cell you want it to go. So if this was your actual problem set, you would have clicked D15 in this box, because that's what your first question, your problem set says to do. So you select that box to put it in. I have it set up that way because I have it the print area set where I can easily see the chart set to one page. So location for this one, I'm going to go ahead and put it in F5 here. That's just going to be the top left part of the table, and then click OK. So again, existing worksheet, not new worksheet for your problem set. All right, existing worksheet, and then again, it'd be D15 on the first problem. I'm not sure on the second problem which cell, but it does say it in the instructions as to what cell to click. So once you have the pivot table, there's nothing there. It's a blank table. You can see nothing's there, right? But we have, after that, options as to what we put in the various fields. So what I can do is, once I click anywhere on this pivot table, you can see on the right side of the screen here, pivot table fields. So whatever it is I want to put in the columns, rows, values, I can just drag and drop there. So it says to put quality rating in the rows field, meal in columns, and restaurant in values. Okay, so quality rating in rows. So what I do is I click on quality rating, I drag it down to rows. Okay, and now you can see I've got an excellent, good, very good row. And then it says next to do the meal price in the columns and restaurant in the values. Okay, so meal price in the columns and restaurant in the values. And now we have a very long table here, but maybe it doesn't exactly do what we wanted to do because it's showing too much. Maybe we can make smaller categories for ourselves. So if you look here under value field settings, we can select value field settings. Sorry, click on the sum of restaurants in the values tab, but instead of the sum of restaurants, we're going to change that field setting, the value there, to count. So what I mean by that is I can click on the sum of restaurants in the bottom right here, and instead of it saying the sum of every restaurant, meaning I'm going to sum the total of of ratings under good, very good, etc., I can click value field settings, and then within the value field settings, I can select count instead of sum. All right. By doing that and clicking OK, we get the number. So basically, it was summarizing good, but it was the meal price and the wait time for good, which didn't really do what we wanted to do. Instead, we want the number of times where we see a good rating under a $10 meal, and then a very good rating under a $10 meal, and so forth. Okay. So the next thing we have these here, but we also are missing something because we have oh no, sorry. It basically has 10, 11, 12, 13, and they've scrunched it all up to 48. But what we can do is we can now group some of those together. We can make $10 through a certain amount of dollars as one spot, right? So what we'll do is we'll right click anywhere where there's a cell containing a meal price column label. So cell B4 is what they say from that. So B4 right here, I can click right here and right click. So basically I right click in that cell anywhere where it has a meal price column. So from there, sorry, column labels. So actually it'll be not there, it'll be within our table itself. I apologize. So it's a B4, but what I want to do is I want to right click here where the column label is 10. And then I'm going to click on group. So right click, and instead of having all these 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 as their own thing, I want every $10 to be its own group. So I'm going to click on group, and I'm going to start at 10 and I'm going to end at 49. And then every 10, I want every 10 dollar amounts to be its own group. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that's all the first group. So those 10, so it's starting at 10, going to 49, and then 40 through 49 will be the last group of 10. So start at 10, 49 is the ending, every 10 is a group, click OK. So again, how I did that was like right clicked on 10. I could have done that under 11 or 12 or any of these other ones instead. But 10 to 49, it's doing 48 because 48 is the highest number, but we still want to do it, have it look the same. So 10 to 19 be its own thing. So 10 to 49 by 10, click OK. And now we have 10 to 19. We can see the breakdown of excellent, good, very goods, $20 to $29, $30 to $39, $40 to $49, and see what the ratings are within that. And then, we probably would want to change a few more things in this. Excellent, then good, then very good. Since very good is better than good, but not as good as excellent, we probably want to change the order that appears in. Right? So how we change that is we can right click on excellent and then move excellent to the end. So it'd be good, very good, excellent. So right here, right click excellent, and we're going to click move, and we're going to click to the end. So now it goes from good to very good to excellent. We could have done that the other way around. We could have put excellent at the top and then very good and then good. But what we don't want, we wouldn't want to have good in the middle there. That just didn't make any sense. So I could right click on excellent and move up. I could right click, I could move to beginning. I could right click and move very good up one. Either way, that makes sense. We've got excellent, very good, good. We just want to have them in order that makes sense, either ascending or descending order. Either way, it's fine there. And then, we can make some other changes to it. We could, instead of having it show a count, we could have it show these as a percentage of the whole. So what I can do under this one is where we have count of restaurants, I can click on it, and then value field settings, I can have this be a show. I can go to show value as a percentage of grand total. So that option will show that 2% or a count of 2 is equal to whatever percent of the grand total and so on. So when I click OK, it helps me to show that, of the very good, most of the very good ratings were in the $20 to $29 ballpark. While there weren't a lot of excellent ratings, you had to go to 30 to 39, 40 to 49 area to get most of the excellence and so on. in the 40 to 49 rating, we can see there was 0% were rated good. They were all very good or excellent. So it just gives us, get whatever information is you're trying to get across. That's how you can change these values. So clicking on them, the value field settings is how you can change to either be, some sort of calculation or, whatever it is. If you want to average, max, min, whatever makes sense for what it is, the story you're trying to tell. So all of that's done in there. I think that, we could average it out. Either way, if you follow on the book, you can see all the different things you can change that to. So that's pivot tables. Now, the other thing we can do with pivot tables is we can have it recommend a pivot table for us. So if we were going to start over on this one and delete this out, what I could do is I could highlight all the data, Control Shift down, and when I go to insert pivot tables, I could click on recommended pivot tables instead of just pivot tables, and then it would try to pre-do one of these that makes sense. So if what I'm trying to do is have the total number of excellent count and good and very good count, I could click on this one right here. If any of these happen to match what it is I'm trying to get across anyway, then I could just click that. If we want to know the wait time total, if you wanted excellent or very good, or whatever it is you're trying to do, maybe there's one that makes sense that you can just have done and you want to change any of the value field settings at all. So we could just click OK here, and then we could get one that has already on it, excellent, sum of wait time, sum of meal price, and change whichever one of these values. And if you look here under values, we can have several different columns. We don't have to just have the wait time. I can have count of restaurants. For wait time, I could click on this one, and maybe that would make more sense as an average wait time in minutes. And then, make my decimal points consistent here between all of them. And then, so sum of meal price, maybe that one, it says sum of meal price, would also make more sense to be an average meal price. All right, and again, make this consistent to just maybe 2 decimal places. Same thing here, 2 decimal places. Since this is a dollar amount, make sure that your formatting would match that currency, count of restaurants. That'd probably be fine to keep that. There's 312 restaurants. We can see that. And then again, you don't want good in the middle here, so maybe we'll put excellent down at the end. So again, with pivot tables, it's kind of just playing around with the data and seeing what makes sense for you. You've got 2 problems on pivot tables. Make sure you pay attention to inserting them into the cell that it says to insert it to, and not into a new worksheet. All right, let's look at the electronics one. So the electronics page is going to be a scatter chart. What we're trying to look at with the electronics one is basically if commercials affect our sales volume. So if we run a certain amount of commercials, do our sales go up? So when you're inserting a pivot table, what you want to do is just select, you can see here B2 through C11. That's the data only. Okay. So we only want to select the data. We do not select any of the labels here. This is the week number. There's numbers here, but that's not really, it's not a quantitative value, right? We're not, this is just a label, even though it is a number. Same thing here. So we just select the data only. We go to insert. And actually, this one I can make a little bit bigger since, there we go. We're going to select the data only, and we're going to go to insert. And then for charts, we click on the scatter, and then the very top left one is the scatter plot. We don't want any of these goofy ones because they try to connect all the dots. We want just a simple scatter chart, not one with smooth lines and markers, not one with bubbles, just a simple scatter chart, top left one. So that's what we're going to insert. On your problem, it tells you exactly where to put that on the page so that it shows up in my preview for grading purposes. And from there, you can see here, if you hover the pointer over the chart type, it'll display, etc. Click the scatter plot button, design tab. So we're going to go to design tab, and we're going to chart tools. And we want to change some stuff around. First thing, under the design tool, under chart element, we want to make sure that we add axis titles. So title to the primary horizontal, primary vertical, because we want these labeled. And from here, we can select where it comes from. So we can select on the axis title, primary vertical, and then click on the textbook and replace axis title with number of commercials. Is what it says to do. So number of commercials, we'll just click right down here, and we'll say number of commercials. and then this one's going to be sales volume. And it looks like raw numbers, 50 total units. If this was in millions or whatever, in thousands, we'd want to write in parentheses in thousands right there. So that's what we start with doing. Chart element, primary vertical, primary horizontal, and then it says for this chart we want it to say scatter chart for the San Francisco electronics store. Charts always need to have a title. They have one usually just as a chart title. You need to put a chart title here. That's points that count for or against you when it comes to grading purposes. Data visualization is about making sure your audience knows what's going on. That's why we add these X and Y axis titles. So this one, it said, what did I say again? Scatter chart for the San Francisco electronics store. Okay. So since we were given exact thing to write. Although just to make it fit, I'm going to write SF electronics store. Maybe San Fran. Not as professional, but I'm going to do it for this purpose. All right. From there, what else would we want to do to it? Okay, so we could right click on the grid lines and delete. Right click on the vertical grid lines and delete. If you remember from the lecture, we want to make these things just look a little bit better. The grid lines can be useful in some cases, but it's cleaner usually to take them off. So by left clicking on any of these vertical ones, I can then right click and hit delete. By left clicking on these horizontal ones, I can then right click and delete. All right, a little cleaner. What else does it want us to do? It wants us to, it does want to say sales in hundreds. Okay. So sales in hundreds, sales volume. Sales in so 4,000 would be 4,000. All right. From here, we want add a trend line. Okay, so we'll go back to this one, and if you're on a Windows PC, you have this little plus sign, which is really nice to be able to add chart elements. Otherwise, you got to go to chart design plus. And then trend line, we can add a trend line. We'll do a linear trend line just to help to visualize whether or not we can see a trend going on. And it certainly appears that as the number of commercials increase, so does the number of sales in hundreds. And that is really it for, oh wait, here we go. Scatter plot. Recommended chart. So instead of clicking on the insert a scatter plot, if we highlight the data and we go to insert recommended charts, we'll try to guess the best one, and it would have guessed scatter plot from this, and that's really the only one that makes sense because this is a comparison of one value to another. Having a cluster column chart wouldn't really make sense. None of these other ones would get the data that we're wanting. Now we could do week 1 sales volume, week 2 sales volume, etc. Take out commercials altogether, and we could see the sales volume over time. That would make sense on maybe a line chart, but that wasn't what it was asking us to do here. So we're not going to do that, and we are going to move to a line chart. So line chart or a time series plot is what you use when you have sales or whatever over time, whatever you have. And this one we've got Kirkland Industries sales data. And we're going to be inserting a line chart. So when you have a line chart, you can select all the data. So we'll go to the Kirkland tab, and we'll select all of the data, and we'll go to insert. And if we click on recommended charts, you can see it does recommend a line chart, which is good because that's what we wanted. But otherwise, you could click on groups right here, insert line, and then a 2D line chart. Because in almost all cases, if you can use a 2D chart, you want to use that and not a 3D chart. 3D charts can be very confusing, so definitely prefer a 2D chart to a 3D chart in just about all cases. Sales in 100s is the title because it defaults to right here. These are the actual sales volumes, and you can see it did pick the labels up of January through December. Very nice. So what else would we want to do? Grid lines don't add anything meaningful, so we can delete the grid lines. add the axis titles, chart title, and any other elements we want to add? Not really. So we just want to right click on those grid lines and delete, and then make sure that we add our axis titles. This is going to be sales in 100s, and this is going to be month. And then probably the title should be different, I would think. Yeah, line chart for monthly sales data. So probably to say monthly sales data. We know it's a line chart by looking at it. And there we go. This is really all there is to this one, because we just have simple sales over time. We're not trying to look necessarily to see if there's a trend of any kind, because even if there was a trend, all we would see would be, whether or not the month affected the data, which could be the case if we were comparing this to this. But if that was the case, we would need to change January to period 1, February to period 2. And then we could maybe try to quantify it and see if we could forecast based on the month number, the period number, to see if it was going up over time. All right, our next one is going to be similar, except we're going to have those sales, same sales, so 135 for January, but the sales are going to be broken down by location. So when we have 2 sets of data, we're going to have something like this. So the north and south, we're going to select all the data. We're going to go to insert. If we go to recommended charts, probably it's going to pick a line chart for us, and that's exactly what we want. And then whether or not we want to have that be 2 different colors, if our audience, maybe we're aware that somebody in our C-suite is colorblind. We wouldn't want to do blue-red colors for that if somebody was blue-red colorblind. So maybe a dashed line for the other one would make more sense. We could right-click on it and format it, and then go into this spot here, and we could say for the line, we could have it be a gradient line or marker, whatever the case is. But we could have it, we could change the way that this looks considerably, and add various things to make this a little bit the width of each gradient. Basically, you got a lot more stops in it to make it change more often. We could maybe do both. We could do a gradient line. So not only is it a different color, but it's also a much lighter color, which might make sense because then it's got the little lines going on, but also it's not as thick of a line, and the sales are weaker in the south, so maybe that makes sense. Whatever the case is, but we can see where we can change that within the settings to match whatever it is we want it to match. But that's how you would do 2 lines. Just select all the data and then insert a line chart, 2D line chart with it. All right. So really, that's about it for that one. Just to show that there's a way to do 2 separate lines if that was the case. We're going to circle back to this Kirkland regional file on one of the other types of charts as well. So that's not the last we've seen of that data. We're going to move on to bar chart. Let's see here. Oh, spark line. We're going to make a spark line later. Okay, so all right, I guess I'll just show the spark line real quick since it's there. But a spark line, if we click where we want to put the spark line, we can go to the insert tab, and then it is located right. Why am I not seeing it? Insert ribbon line. There, all of a sudden I have. Okay, here we go. Spark lines. So right here, line, and the data range is going to be all of these, and click OK. And we can see that its representation of this spark line has no grid, no XY axis. It's just you're viewing a trend of some kind. Same thing here. Click here, go to insert under spark lines, line. Data range is going to be these southern ones, and then click OK. So this is why spark lines can maybe not be the best. They're used in conjunction with something else, often with a heat map. But this looks like sales are going way up in the south over time. Sales are going way down in the north over time, and that is the case. But overall, the sales are better in the north, except for in these last 3 months. So in the north, probably whatever it is we're selling, it just got too cold, and so it's just not selling very well. Whereas sales are a little more flat in the south, but overall, a lot less. If I were to select all of this, I can see in the bottom, the sum is 1090 versus 740. So almost, what was that, about 40% more sales in the north, about 350 more. So, all right, let's move on to a bar chart. All right, bar chart. Most of the rest of these charts are going to follow the same kind of pattern. You're going to select the data. You're going to go to the insert tab, and then you're going to insert the type that it tells you to insert. So this is going to be a clustered bar chart, but just as easily we could do a clustered column chart. It would be done exactly the same way, which we would select column chart instead of bar chart. Bar chart is going to go with horizontal lines. Column chart is going to go with vertical lines, but it's going to show the exact same thing. It's just going to flip the X and Y axis around. So how does that work? We're just going to select all the data. We're going to go to insert, and just to reiterate, with a scatter plot, we only select the numbers in the data sets themselves. We don't select the labels, but all the rest of these, we're going to be selecting everything because it'll insert the labels we want for us. If we go to recommended charts, it's going to recommend a clustered column chart because it thinks it's better in this case, but clustered bar is the one we want. We could find that right here under insert column or bar. So 2D bar chart, 2D column chart, either way. Again, it's the same thing. It's just whether it's flipped or not. Just to follow along, I'm gonna go with the book's guide that says bar chart. But if your problem was a column chart, you would just do that one. All right. Again, we want to make sure that we have the axis titles here. So this is going to be accounts managed. This is going to be the manager. Okay. From here, we want to make this organized a little bit better. So if we select our cells, we can sort them out. And because this is where it's selected, when I select all of these and I sort them from high to low, so I'm going to go to the insert tab. I'm sorry, I'm going to go to the home tab. I'm going to go to sort and filter, and I'm going to sort them. If I do A to Z, it's going to be by the manager type. Instead, I'm going to go to custom sort by accounts managed, high to low or low to high. Oh, and it does flip it. So we want to actually flip that around. Yeah. There we go. So we have, Gentry, Lopez, Francois, etc. We're showing who's managing the most number of accounts. We want to make sure we're changing our title as well. And probably take out these bars here. If we want to add data labels, we could add data labels, which will give us the total count at the end of each of these. If we want to put that in the middle or somewhere else, we could click on them, right click, and then format the data labels. We could change this around however we want. It wouldn't really make sense to put it center. It'd be very hard to read. It really wouldn't make it sense to put at the very end. Again, very hard to read that. So not probably the best place to put those data labels. Probably fine how it is on the outside end. But if it was something where maybe a pie chart or something where you wanted to put the labels inside of the pie slices instead of outside the pie slices, and then change the color to make it where it was actually readable, that's how you would do it there. So not anything else for that one. All right. Bubble charts. All right, so the bubble chart is the next one we're going to do. And we're doing a bubble chart because there's three things we're looking at. We're looking at billionaires per 10 million residents. We're looking at per capita income of these countries, and we're looking at the total number of billionaires in each country. And because each of these things doesn't follow the same necessary unit of measurement or comparison of what it is, We're going to, like, none of these are reasonable at all. Billionaires per 10 million, and you've got small numbers versus hundreds here, or 1.7 thousand here. It makes sense to display these as three different things. So if we go to the insert chart tab and go to recommended charts, it's going to try to find one. It doesn't find that for us automatically, but here we go. Bubble chart is what we want. Or if we wanted to just find it ourselves without going to recommended charts, we could go to, I believe it's listed under, yeah, scatter, and then bubble. It's not finding it right. So it's not finding the data in the right way. It's not showing something correctly, but that's the beauty of these recommended charts instead, because it's going to try to find it and make a little bit more sense for us. So I'm going to select all of this. Oh, actually, because that's right. I think because it is, yeah. Because this chart is technically a type of scatter plot chart, you have to just select that data only. But let me look at that again, because if I go to recommended charts, it looked like it was going to highlight all the labels for us, because that looks right. Let's see. Oh, it does. Okay. So I looked and tried to put per capita income as the title, but that's not really necessarily accurate. That's not what it is we're trying to show off here. Instead, yeah, it does say it is just select the data only. So that's probably the best way to do it, just to make sure we can start from scratch and get all our labels correct. So data only, insert, bubble, or scatter plot bubble. And then let's do a lot of editing to this one. So I'm going to put this on the other screen just so I can read along with it, what it wants us to do. But chart title, it wants the title of this to be, let's see, very good chart title for this, billionaire data or something like that. Chart title, billionaires by country. Okay. We want access titles, and we want to make sure the horizontal axis is billionaires per 10 billion. If I were to right click this and select the data, I could change the legend to, okay, horizontal axis labels. Yeah, if I would go down to here, if I can just, it's an easy way to do this. Series name. I could click right here for series name and click OK, I believe. Nope. Oh, it didn't work. All right. Billionaires per 10 million residents for horizontal. For vertical, we want that to be per capita income. And then we're not going to label it, but this is showing us the, yeah, this is no good. We want this to be, let's format this where it is not displaying where it's displaying. We want these marks to be label position low, label position high. There we go. We want these to be outside of the chart. Same thing here. Don't want these to be where they're located. Format access, labels high, nope, labels low. No. That's right, but for some reason this one got flipped. What did I do wrong there? There we go. I thought low was correct, but it didn't flip. It was just lagging. Okay, so low and low. So that shows it outside of the grid lines. This negative 10,000, we don't necessarily want that to be the starting point. So format axis, and then the minimum, we want the minimum to be 0 here. Okay. There we go. That's a little bit better. I think that's about it. We can see that billionaires per 10 million. So there are 60 and per capita income. Yes, here we want these to show the name of the country though. So we're going to right click here and then we're going to click on data labels, but we don't want that to be the dollar amount. We want that to be the country. So more options. Let's see here. Text options. See if we can find it. Format data series. Now change. Select data. There it is. Okay. So this data range, it's going to be here to here, right? No. Sorry, 1 second. Right clicked. Label options. Okay. Format data labels. Format data labels. Okay. Value from cells, and the value is going to be this value. There we go. So label options, value from cells, it's trying to choose something else. Hit OK, and then unclick Y value. We don't want it to show that Y value. And then as far as how you have that showing up, we probably want this to be to the right of each of these. That makes more sense. There we go. All right, that's probably good there. There might be oh, you know what? We don't want this left side to go into the negative either. So we want format this axis for the minimum to be 0 as well. There we go. All right. Excellent. So that's bubble chart. Just a lot of clicking, right clicking, selecting data, etc. The book actually does outline that a little bit better in the right order. I was trying to skip a few steps there, it didn't work so well. But just follow along with the book. That is on page number 106 is where bubble chart starts on. Now let's look at heat maps. All right, so heat maps. The gist of this is that we want it to show up like this. We want it anything with basically the higher the value, we want it to be a deeper blue. The lower the value, we want it to be a deeper red. And then the spark lines are going to go to the end of each of these to show how the trends are progressing. So a heat map, we're going to is a type of conditional formatting. So we're just going to select all of the data and we're going to conditional formatting and we're going to color, let's see here, data bars. There's color scales. Let's see here. 1 second. Color scales. Okay, that's what I had. Conditional formatting, color scales. There we go. All right, red, white, and blue is what we want to select. There we go. So we've got color scales for each of these, showing us the deeper blue, the higher the value is in sales. And then we want to see what that trend is looking like. So we can go to spark lines and then go to insert line. The data range is going to be right here, B2 through M2. The location is going to be right here. And then I should be able to just drag this all the way down by clicking that bottom right little dot. And it's going to copy the same type of formula in each space just over. So there's our data lines. And that's a heat map with spark lines, just as simple as that. Highlight all the data, conditional formatting, and then color scales. Whatever color it is you want. If you wanted it to be go from yellow to orange to red to green for the higher values, you can do that with a dark red for very low. This might be better because it gives it a little bit more relevant data. All these values are, 0% isn't as bad compared to some of the other ones because of all the negatives involved. So, potentially that one looks better. It's really up to what the assignment says or when you're in the field, what you think looks best. but that is the heat map. And then finally, last but not least, we're going to look at the chart when there are multiple values. So this one, we've got north and south. And what we're going to do is a stacked column chart. Pardon me. And then a clustered column chart. We're going to show both of these things on this one sheet. So what we're going to do is select all the data. We're going to go to insert. And then under, let's see here. Under column chart, we're going to do a, here we go. We have stacked column chart, which this is showing it out of a total percentage of each. This is not what we would want it to show. So I think that it should give us the steps here that you could follow along with. No, it doesn't look like it. All right. So we want this not to show out of the whole, but we want this to show the actual values here. So this range, we're going to need to format this, the y-axis, to be sales amount. So we're going to select the data, and this is going to be let's see here, 1 second. All right. We wanted to select the data only because we're comparing two values. It gets confused when you have all of the titles. So we'll select from here down to here. We'll go to the insert tab and then back to 2D column chart and then stacked. I did it again. Interesting. All right, we're going to do stacked column chart here. Then we're also going to insert a stacked column chart, clustered column chart. Again, it's doing something goofy. I'm going to pause one more time because it should be giving us, be showing a little bit differently than it is. Change chart type to clustered column chart. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I just got myself confused. Yeah, clustered column chart would just have them side by side with each other. The problem with these ones is that it's sometimes difficult to tell what this amount is right here, right? So we know that this total for January is going to add up to around 130 or so. But what amount was this? It's a little harder to tell. 150, 100. It is maybe around 130. This is maybe around 90. So you could probably get to where it's around the 40 mark, but not as easy to tell. The clustered column chart instead would show this data, and it looks like this, and you can see 40 here and 90, 95 for the north. So a little easier to tell what's what when you compare the months to months. And so I'm just going to real quick. There we go. So that's January, and then we're going to insert another one next to that with the labels already in it. So you can see it's a little easier to tell. Again, we want to get rid of these grid lines probably, but then we want to add data labels to each. Maybe make the data labels a little bit smaller so we can right click on them and make the size a little bit smaller in here. We could make these a little bit wider, or whatever it is we want it to do to make it make a little more sense. We'll make sure that there's an axis title on. We already have one on the bottom because it has the month listed here, but we want to make sure that we have one on the y-axis on both of these as well. But again, this is just getting across where you have two sets of data that are in the same period. If you wanted to compare, people of different age groups in a classroom, or people of different genders, or in this case, sales by region, whatever it is you're comparing within a same period, then a chart like this is a fine way to show that, but having them side by side and clustered together might make a little bit more sense. So that is the clustered column chart. Sorry for a little bit of a confusion at the end of the video there. Got myself confused on why it wasn't clustering, but got it. Down here are some of those in figure 3.3 here. And these you can look a little bit more on page 110 about what it is we just did at the end. So if you have any questions about your assignment or how these charts are used in your assignment, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in chapter 4. Thanks, everyone.